What if one small choice, one that feels simple, almost meaningless, could quietly uncover the deepest truth about who you are? Picture this. You're standing in front of an old wooden table, the kind that seems to hold memories in its grain. A soft, golden light falls across it, the kind of light that makes everything slow down, like time itself has decided to pause just for you. And there, resting before you, are three bottles, unopened, unexplained, but somehow alive. They're not ordinary bottles. There's something about them that hums beneath the surface, a silent whisper that draws you in. Each one carries a presence, almost like it's waiting, watching, knowing something about you that you might have forgotten. You study them. Their shapes are unfamiliar yet strangely familiar, elegant, mysterious, almost magical. You can't explain why, but your gaze lingers. Something about them feels symbolic, like a dream you can't quite remember, but still feel in your bones. And that's when the question arises, quietly, insistently, which bottle calls to you? Not just visually, but energetically, as if one of them is vibrating with a subtle message meant only for you. The feeling is undeniable, like it's whispering, I'm yours. You've known me before. Because what's about to happen isn't a game. It's not fortune-telling or superstition. It's something far deeper. A conversation with your unconscious, that hidden realm inside you that rarely speaks in words, yet constantly shapes your choices, desires, and path. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist who founded depth psychology, believed that the human psyche communicates not just through language, but through symbols. These universal images, what Jung called archetypes, show up everywhere, in myths, in dreams, in art, in ancient rituals. And they still live within each of us, quietly guiding the stories we live out every day. The bottles before you are symbols like that. Archetypes disguised as objects. They aren't just glass and color. They're mirrors. Mirrors that reflect your soul. So no, your choice won't be random. It won't depend on which looks prettiest or which color catches your eye first. This is about intuition, that quiet knowing that bypasses logic. It's about projection, the mysterious way our inner world shapes what we see and feel outside of us. And in that small, silent pull toward one of these bottles lies something profound. A hidden message from your psyche, a fragment of your story that's asking to be remembered. So before you choose, do something simple but important. Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders drop. Let go of logic, of hurry, of the noise that's been echoing in your head all day. Look at these bottles not with your mind, but with your inner sense, the same sense that recognizes when someone's energy is right or wrong, when a place feels like home, when an idea just clicks. Let yourself feel which one is calling. Don't rush. Don't analyze. Because the choice you make right now, as small as it seems, is a doorway, one that opens inward. It leads into the deeper layers of who you are, the parts of yourself that rarely get a voice in your everyday life. And once you make your choice, stay with me. Because what you'll hear next might surprise you. It might even shake you a little. But one thing's certain, it will reveal a part of yourself that deserves to be seen. Maybe a part no one else knows. Maybe a part you've long buried under everything you've become. So don't click away. Stay till the end of this video. What comes next isn't a prediction of your future. It's a mirror for your present, a symbolic reflection of what's alive in your unconscious right now, waiting to be acknowledged. Before you are three bottles, three mirrors. Each carries its own light, its own shadow, its own secret. Will you be drawn to the clarity of intellect, the mystery of transformation, or the nobility of inner strength? Only one will feel like yours, and that feeling, that instinct, is already the beginning of revelation. Now let's begin. If your eyes were immediately drawn to the first bottle, the one made of bright yellow glass streaked with soft blue spirals and topped with a cap shaped like a spiral shell, then you've already answered a very specific call. This choice isn't about surface attraction. It's not because you like the color yellow or because it looks elegant. There's something much deeper at play. This bottle doesn't just shine, it radiates meaning. The golden yellow that glows within it represents light, clarity, truth, that powerful energy that cuts through illusion and confusion. It's the color of consciousness itself. If you chose this bottle, chances are you're someone who lives for understanding. You can't help but ask questions. You don't just accept what others say, you investigate. You pull back the curtain and peer into the mechanisms of life, needing to know why. You might find it hard to rest until things make sense, until the pattern reveals itself. And the blue spirals that swirl through the glass? They're like your thoughts, always moving, spiraling inward and outward, connecting dots that most people don't even see. That's your genius. The ability to find meaning in complexity, to turn confusion into clarity, to take chaos and reveal the hidden order within it. You translate the abstract into understanding, not only for yourself, but for others too. You might do this through teaching, writing, analyzing, or simply the way you think aloud. People around you often come to you for guidance, even when they can't explain why. They sense something in you, a light, a calm intelligence that helps them see clearly. But your light comes with sensitivity, because yellow, as radiant as it is, can also be fragile. You may shine brightly in the darkness, but that same brilliance makes you more vulnerable to disappointment. You've likely felt it, the frustration of being misunderstood, of seeing further than others want to look, of craving integrity and depth in a world that often settles for the surface. The spiral-shaped cap on your bottle reveals even more about your path. The spiral is one of humanity's oldest symbols. It represents evolution, growth, and the journey of returning to the same place, but with greater awareness each time. And that's your pattern. You revisit your past not to dwell in it, but to understand it, to find lessons, to refine your truth. You're not afraid of reflection. You analyze yourself as much as the world around you. This makes you wise, but also weary. Sometimes your mind becomes a labyrinth. You think too much. You hold yourself to impossible standards. You want everything you do to have meaning, every step to align with purpose. It's exhausting at times, yet you keep going. Because somewhere deep inside, you know your light matters, even if not everyone gets it. Whether you're a scientist, a teacher, an artist, or something else entirely, what's undeniable is your gift for bringing order to chaos, for seeing the invisible patterns that others overlook. You might hide your vulnerability behind humor, intellect, or composure, but your true brilliance lies in your ability to unite both light and fragility, logic and emotion. That's what makes you magnetic. And maybe that's the next step in your journey, to stop hiding one behind the other, to let the world see both your wisdom and your tenderness, because your humanity is what makes your light so real. If you chose the first bottle, you're not here for a life of mediocrity. You're here to illuminate, to be like that bottle, intentional, radiant, alive with meaning. If, from the very beginning, your eyes were drawn to the second bottle, the one shaped like a perfect sphere, its surface alive with colorful fragments, like a mosaic caught mid-glow, then your choice wasn't made by chance. This bottle doesn't shimmer with the clear brightness of the first. It doesn't try to be transparent. Instead, it invites you into its mystery. Light bends and breaks across its surface, refracting through hundreds of tiny pieces, as if every shard of glass holds a different memory. That's you. You are made of fragments, luminous and dark, painful and beautiful, all fused together into something that only you could create. Your life hasn't been a straight line. It's been a mosaic, built from what you've lived, lost, and learned. And that's what gives you depth. The bronze frame that holds the bottle together is like your inner strength, solid, grounding, keeping the delicate pieces in place without hiding their imperfections. You've mastered the art of reconstruction. Every time you've been broken, you've rebuilt yourself more intricately, more intentionally. You don't see your scars as flaws. You see them as part of the design. That's what makes your beauty quiet but powerful. You might not realize it, but people feel your energy the moment you walk into a room. You can sense things, emotions, unspoken tensions, subtle vibrations that others miss. You read silences like they're full paragraphs. You pick up on the truth behind people's words before they do. And while some might call that sensitivity a curse, it's actually your greatest gift. You have a kind of intuition that doesn't need evidence. You just know. And even when you try to dismiss it, it keeps whispering in your gut until you finally listen. This is the essence of the mystic alchemist. The archetype that turns the unseen into understanding. The bottle's glass, with all its fragments, mirrors your ability to hold contradictions. You can be gentle and fierce, grounded and ethereal, joyful and melancholic, sometimes all in one breath. You don't fit into simple categories because your soul was never meant to be simple. Life has tested you. Maybe you've lost people or dreams or versions of yourself you thought would last forever. But each loss became a lesson, each heartbreak a doorway to wisdom. You don't stay shattered for long. You transform. That's what true alchemy is, not turning metal into gold, but turning pain into light. Your energy is deeply spiritual, whether or not you identify with religion. You're drawn to symbolism, ritual, synchronicity, the secret language the universe uses to communicate. You might dream vividly, have déjà vu often, or notice patterns repeating in your life until you finally understand their meaning. You've probably had moments where life felt eerily poetic, when events aligned so perfectly it felt like something bigger was orchestrating them. And you're right, the unseen speaks to you because you're willing to listen. To you, dreams aren't random. They're messages from the soul. Coincidences aren't accidents. They're signs of alignment. You live in a world that values logic, yet you trust what can't be measured. And that's your superpower. People sense your calm depth. They tell you things they don't tell anyone else. They confide, they cry, they unravel. Because your presence feels safe. Not because you fix them, but because you see them. You hold space without judgment. But make no mistake, beneath that empathy is a powerful protector. The dark orb that crowns your bottle isn't ominous. It's sacred. It represents your inner temple, the space within you that no one gets to enter without permission. You guard it fiercely because it contains your essence, your truth, your energy, your power. That sanctuary isn't isolation. It's your place of regeneration. You might retreat often, pull away from noise, crowds, and constant conversation. People may misread it as distance or moodiness, but what you're actually doing is recharging. You know intuitively that silence isn't emptiness. It's medicine. Still, this sacred solitude can be double-edged. There are times you isolate yourself too deeply, staying in the dark longer than necessary. But even in those moments, something beautiful happens. Healing. You emerge softer, clearer, wiser. The truth is, you carry ancient wisdom. Sometimes you even feel older than your years, as if you've lived many lives before this one. You sense generational stories in your bones, ancestral patterns that still echo in you. You've probably had to break some of them yourself, choosing to end cycles of pain or silence that ran through your family. That's not a small task. That's sacred work. And yes, it can be heavy. Because when you live at this level of sensitivity, you don't just feel your emotions, you absorb the world's. But remember this, you're not meant to carry everything. You're meant to transform it through art, through words, through creation, through love. You might be someone who paints or writes, who photographs, cooks, designs, or simply moves through the world with quiet creativity. Whatever your medium, you bring beauty out of chaos. You make meaning where others see only mess. You don't need applause or validation. Your satisfaction comes from the transformation itself, from watching pain turn into art, confusion into clarity, shadow into color. That's the alchemist's way. But even alchemists have limits. Your compassion sometimes makes you absorb too much. You might feel exhausted by other people's pain. You might attract those who need healing but aren't ready to do the work themselves. That's why boundaries are essential for you. They're not walls. They're sacred geometry. They shape how your energy flows, how you protect your inner fire from being drained. The mosaic bottle reminds you that you don't need to be transparent to be true. Mystery doesn't make you distant. It makes you magnetic. Your shadows don't diminish your light. They give it depth. You are both the healer and the one still healing, the dreamer and the realist, the broken and the whole. That's your paradox. That's your power. And the world needs it. Because you remind us that sensitivity isn't weakness. It's wisdom. That transformation isn't about perfection. It's about integration. You, the mystic alchemist, exist to show that every fracture can shine. That what's been shattered can still reflect light, maybe even more beautifully than before. Now tell me, did you feel something stir while hearing this? Did these words echo a truth you've always known but never quite said aloud? Share it in the comments. Your story, your experience of turning pain into purpose might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Because every time one of us speaks our transformation, we remind the rest of the world that healing isn't linear. It's mosaic. And so, when the light of consciousness first descends into the dark soil of the psyche, it does not illuminate, it blinds. The ego, accustomed to surfaces, trembles before what it cannot name. For the darkness of the unconscious is not evil, it is unintegrated potential. It contains not only the wound, but also the medicine, the very gold that the alchemists sought. Jung once wrote, "There is no coming to consciousness without pain." This is not metaphor, it is initiation. The pain signals the cracking of the old structure. The mask that once protected you from chaos begins to suffocate you. The persona, the well-polished image you show to the world, starts to rot from within, and the smell of that decay is what drives you inward. Many mistake this for failure or depression, but in truth, it is the psyche's revolt against falseness. It is the moment when life refuses to let you keep pretending. To withdraw, then, is not to escape the world, but to meet it more deeply, within. For the outer world is merely the projection of the inner one. Until you face your own darkness, the world will keep mirroring it back to you, person by person, wound by wound. And when you finally have the courage to descend, something extraordinary happens. The monsters guarding the cave begin to change shape. What first appeared as a demon reveals itself as an orphaned fragment of your own soul, asking to be seen, held, and remembered. Individuation is not a path of light. It is a reconciliation with the night. It is the sacred marriage between what you love and what you fear, between the image you created and the truth you abandoned. There comes a moment in every genuine withdrawal when silence ceases to be an absence and becomes a presence. At first, the quiet feels unbearable, like being exiled from the pulse of the world. But slowly, imperceptibly, the silence begins to breathe. It grows roots in the psyche, and what once felt like emptiness begins to take shape as a living, invisible companion. This is the metamorphosis that cannot be witnessed from the outside. To the world, you have disappeared. To yourself, you are dissolving. But in that dissolution, something ancient awakens, the self, the totality that has been waiting beneath the ruins of the persona. Jung called this process enantiodromia, the turning of one thing into its opposite. Isolation becomes union, loss becomes fertility, death becomes birth. It is not a dramatic event, but a subtle alchemy. The ego, having been humbled, relinquishes its throne. In its place arises a quiet awareness, not the voice that speaks, but the one that listens, not the I that asserts, but the I that sees. This is why the transformation often goes unnoticed by others. The outer life remains simple, even uneventful, but inwardly, entire worlds are rearranging themselves. What once was fragmented begins to cohere. The opposites, light and shadow, masculine and feminine, spirit and matter, start to converse rather than compete. The individual who returns from such silence does not come back as who they were. They do not return with answers, but with presence. The light they carry is not one that blinds. It illuminates gently, like dawn on stone. For they have learned what can only be learned in solitude, that the soul's true expansion begins the moment the world thinks you have vanished. After the descent and the silent metamorphosis comes the most difficult movement of all, the return. It is one thing to retreat from the world and face your shadow. It is another to walk back into that same world, carrying what you have found without losing it. Jung knew this intimately. His withdrawal into the depths was not meant to be permanent exile. The goal was never to build a monastery within the psyche, but a bridge between the inner and the outer, the symbolic and the real. He called it the return of the self into the world of matter. When the self returns, it does not resume the old life. It redeems it. Everything mundane becomes a vessel of meaning, a conversation, a dream, a leaf trembling in the wind. Each carries the echo of the depths. You begin to live symbolically, not as an escape from reality, but as an intensification of it. The world becomes transparent, and through its transparency, you glimpse eternity moving within time. The self does not reject form. It animates it. It speaks through art, through kindness, through the quiet precision of a life that has become congruent with its own truth. This is why Jung warned against remaining in isolation too long. The light found in solitude must be brought back into relation. Otherwise, it turns sterile, a private illumination that nourishes no one. The final task of individuation is not transcendence, but incarnation. You return to the marketplace, to the noise and dust, but something has shifted. The same streets, the same faces, the same routines, yet nothing is the same. Because you no longer look at the world as a stranger seeking meaning. You look as meaning itself, seeking the world. And in that quiet reversal, the journey completes its circle. The disappearance was never an ending. It was the beginning of a deeper presence. To vanish silently was only to make room for what was waiting to emerge. The self steps forward, not with noise or triumph, but with a still radiance that asks for nothing and transforms everything. Silence, once feared as emptiness, now reveals itself as a form of speech, one older than words, more precise than intellect. It does not explain, it transmits, it does not argue, it invites. Those who have truly withdrawn and returned carry a silence that is not passive but radiant. It is the silence of depth, not distance. Around them, conversation slows. People feel seen without being judged, touched without being grasped. For the silence of the individuated soul does not demand attention, it gives it. Jung understood that silence is not the absence of thought, but the presence of awareness. In that field of inner stillness, opposites are reconciled. You begin to listen not only to what is said, but to what is meant. You hear not only the voice of others, but the murmuring of your own soul, the subtle corrections, the intuitive nudges, the quiet knowing that requires no proof. In a culture addicted to noise, this kind of silence is subversive. It breaks the economy of distraction. It resists the tyranny of constant explanation. It creates space, sacred, uncomfortable space, where truth can breathe. The individuated person learns to dwell there, between speaking and withholding, between revealing and protecting. They understand that not everything must be expressed, and that sometimes the truest communication happens in what remains unsaid. Silence becomes a vessel of love because it allows the other to exist fully, unmanipulated. It becomes a vessel of power because it is rooted in self-possession rather than performance. And it becomes a vessel of art because all creation emerges from that same fertile void. This is the paradox Jung discovered in his own retreat, that to find one's voice, one must first lose it. That to return to the world with meaning, one must first descend into wordless being. And so, the language of silence is not the end of speech. It is its purification. It is the place where words are born clean again, where what is spoken does not fill the air but pierces it with truth that no longer seeks to persuade, only to reveal.